I have 4:39 on my clock, and we try and start at 4:30. Our working session that we just finished ahead of us is good, and it matched right into 4:30. So this is a Consolidated Commission on Utilities working session to address Guam Power Authority issues for decision and other related material. And for the record, those present are myself, Commissioner Imtiaco, Commissioner Sanchez, Commissioner Santos, and Commissioner Guthards. And right now, the floor belongs to Mr. Beneventi, our General Manager for GPA. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First item, Mr. Chair, is for issue for decision Resolution 2020-13, and this is related to authorizing Guam Power Authority to award the performance management contract for GPA's Cavers Units number 1 and 2. Again, the contract expires September 30, 2020. We did go out for a bid for a 3-year base period with options for 1-year additional extensions. One bidder came in, and I'm actually very glad that we had the bidder, which is the existing performance management contractor, Temis, because they're quite familiar with the plan, and it's not easy to take over a plan that's being programmed to be retired, And the pricing that they provided is a 3% escalator to the performance management fees and all that. So my recommendation, Mr. Chair, is for the CCU to approve for the award to Temis, and of course it's subject to the PUC's review, so that the contract can be in place by before September 30.
Okay. Before we get to the questions, John, in the resolve portion, do you not need to put the amount for the base contract, or no?
Yes, we could put that, Mr. Chair.
You should, in the resolve portion, you should put in the amount for the base contract.
Yep.
It's Commissioners, this is contract for 3 years with an option for another year and another year, right, John?
Yep.
2 1-year options.
So we can put the total of 9.9 million up there for the 3 years, but that includes also an annual O&M of 1.35 million.
Okay.
And that 1.35 million is like their budget for the year.
Okay.
And so if they don't spend it as prior, then again we don't pay for that. The only the numbers for sure that we have to pay is the performance management fee.
Yep. Okay. And go ahead, Commissioner Santos.
The thing about all of this is really it's the maintenance and activities that are required for the plan. Part of the value of the performance management contract is being able to provide the expertise or provide the materials and equipment and parts necessary for the plan. Case in point, if the turbine blade or something breaks, we will have to go out and get a bid and everything. So the unit is sitting around for so long, whereas they're able to go ahead and get something manufactured right away for us. So the biggest value for the PMC is not really running or operating and the management of the whole thing, more as to being able to make sure that we get the parts, materials, and anything necessary to keep the power plant running. For example, we have a contract to do an overhaul of a Cavers unit number 2. That overhaul is going to require about 100 people coming in, and that's the one that we delayed from March. Now we're looking at January next year. They're coming in with welders to change boiler tubes, doing turbine work, all the different aspects of the unit to keep it running. No, we don't have that dire expertise, and even now we're also winding down in the number of people that we have. We only have, like in central maintenance, about 15 people to Not like we used to have 30 or more people in that area. Now it's only about 15, and so when we do a major overhaul, we bring them in because for every day that Cabras is down, it's costing you about $50,000 a day more in fuel costs. So that's why the PMCs are their biggest value right now is being able to provide the expertise as necessary.
So this is something we can't just stand up by ourselves.
Not at this point in time, and more importantly over the next 3 years, because this is when we need the generation, because we're limited already. Maybe
So,
longer
John-
term you could probably try and do that, no? The same thing.
So John, I think what I hear you saying is that you have people who are eligible for retirement and they're retiring. And some of these people are the talented people. You need to do some of this work. But rather than keeping people around or bringing somebody else in, it's more cost effective to hire a contractor to do this on a piecemeal basis. And whereas any parts they need and everything, they bring it in. It's all part of their deal. Right? Okay.
More cost effective, and at this point in time, we didn't. For longer term, you man up with the expertise and you back them up and all of that. But knowing that we're in the wind down, we're trying to manage also the labor coming in. So that's the reason. So and the Cabra screen, is different from any other machine. It's a very complicated with a lot of moving items in it.
So you can't take the people from the combustion turbine to work on the steam plant?
No, can. So that's why as we move forward, at some point in time, depending on if we have more and more retirees, I may ask, or what we try to do is go out for an RFP to hire or rehire some of these people on a temporary basis, just to get us through to the retirement of the unit. So that's all we're trying to manage.
Anybody else? I know it subjects us to questions and stuff. A lot of people don't realize what it is they're going through. But we're in a balance now where we're trying to exit one type technology of generation and go to another one. And I know John's got his hands full because I know I've heard of people retiring from your section, from generation.
We're down to 449 now.
Okay.
We were
Keep losing
at
people.
512 in the end of 2015. So we've already down 65 personnel. So we're just we're what we call right sizing at the same time trying to adjust for the thing. So
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, John, move to the next resolution.
the next presentation, Mr. Chair, is
Oh, this is a new one, yeah.
let me see
8 and 9.
8 and 9. It's a conversion to ultra low sulfur fuel as part of the consent decree. Next. The consent decree requires about 7 different areas. One of it is, of course, constructing the new power plant. Another is making sure that the fuel farm facilities and pipeline system are updated for ultra low sulfur diesel. Third one is PITI 8 and 9 conversion to ultra low sulfur diesel, because that was one of the things that we said we will retain the unit. So if we're going to retain it, we have to convert it from RFO, burning black oil, heavy oil, now to ultra low sulfur diesel. Changes in Cabras 1 and 2 operation, meaning we're not going to convert it. However, at some point we have to make it operate on low sulfur fuel. The refurbishment of the 2 storage tanks to eventually just be for ultra low sulfur diesel. Putting in 100 megawatts of solar projects. And then the other one is getting and commissioning the 40 megawatt total of energy storage batteries, one in Talafo or one in Nagano. Next. This is about MEC 8 and 9 conversion. We have to have a contract of the conversion by July 1st, 2020. And then by December 31st, start the work of completing refurbishment of one tank. Then contract for ultra low sulfur diesel by July 1st next year. And then I have PDA 9 on ultra low sulfur diesel by December 31st, 2021. Next. Let me give you a general background about PD 8 and 9. The plant is critical to providing uninterrupted power today. They are the most efficient of the system. They're operating on RFO. And so it costs a tremendous amount of, they're saving, they're the lowest cost and most efficient of the system today. They, again, is about 30% even more efficient than Cabras 1 and 2. January last year, the ownership reverted over to GPA. And then a performance management contract is in place until 2024. The plan is also being rehabilitated a little bit at a time over the next several years to be able to extend the life for another 15 to 20 years. Because remember, under the first contract, we used it for 20 years, right? And typically after that, machines have to be upgraded. And then the IRP was, the 8 and 9 was the only plan identified in the IRP to be kept. The only base load to be kept together with the new power plant. Next. So what does it take to convert PD 8 and 9 to ultra low sulfur diesel? It takes a conversion cost about $20 million. This we have there was some delay from the COVID. However, we do have the quote now from MEC. Who went through and quoted 3 in the industry that potentially could have done the job. Only one, BWSC, the manufacturer of the machine, came back with the proposal. When you add up all the numbers, it's 20.9 to convert. In addition, the line extension I mentioned earlier, it's about a $10 to $15 million over several years to make that upgrade. In addition to that, after the machine is converted, normally today it's about close to $12 to $15 million for the investment plus the O&M of the plant. You go to 17.5 because when you make it converted to ultra low sulfur diesel, you have to have emission controls. Those emission controls have parts that have to be replaced every 2 to 3 years. So therefore, your average O&M actually goes up to 17.5. As always was said before, whenever you make conversions, you have an investment plus a higher operational cost. The plan, once a new Okudu comes on the line today, the machine is running at about 75-80% capacity factor, meaning as long as it could run, we will run it. No? When the new power plant comes on the board, is relegated to only 15% of its capacity is needed to generate that much energy. So it's less usage. No? Although the O&M and everything is kind of fixed, the usage of energy is less. So therefore, it's going to be now not a base load, but more intermediate load. The heat rate also, because there's less energy in a gallon of ultra low sulfur diesel versus heavy oil. The number of kilowatt you produce per gallon goes from 17.9 down to 15.7. Okay? So again, there's an impact on the energy conversion. There's also a requirement that when we went out for the approval of the IRP, part of that looked at the conversion of the to of MEC 8 and 9, but the PUC did not approve that portion of the conversion. So therefore, if we are going to go convert, we have to go back to the PUC for them to approve the $20 million conversion. Although they had approved in the consent decree the issue about converting the plan, but specifically the utilization of the investment has not been improved yet. Next. The integrated resource plan we're working to update, because there's also been several changes known since the approval of the new power plant. You can't integrate the IRP of 2012-2013 until you get the main parts of that IRP approved. Central to that was the new power plant. But there was no use updating all of this. So the approval came, and so now we have a new power plant contracted for. And we're going to have 25% of our energy. In addition to that, the legislature also passed by 2045 to go to 100% renewable. Our goal is really to begin step at a time, is to try and achieve by 2035, 50% renewable. So when you look at all of this, the addition of the Okudu, more renewables, the fact that MEC's production is going to be costlier because the unit production is going down, it triggered an evaluation of the technical and economic feasibility of keeping PITI 8 and 9. Based on all this condition, what is its role in the future energy mix? Next. Again, just a little overview. The plan ownership, the Agreco, we paid $4.8 million over 4 years. We not only went and extended that contract, but we also did a lease to own. So we invested and been investing about $4.8 million over the past several years, so that in January of next year, we own the power plant. There's 38 units, 1.1 megawatt. You can see them all here lined up across the. This is the GGO combustion turbine here. This is all the Agreco units, 38 units. No. Its annual cost was about $12 million a year with the investment plus all. And again, this you will see, as you've seen, is going to go down based on the fact that we're not paying $7 million capacity fee and all of that. Beginning January 1st, 2020, no? Next, the MEC, again, we own $15 million annually, and again, the production is going to decrease. Next. Efficiency, here's the new power plant, 20 kilowatts per gallon. MEC is going to drop to 15.7. And if you look here, Agreco is a little is less efficient, 12.5, but again, I'll show you after a while that there's a different, even though it's less efficient because you're not using it that much, the impact on fuel oil is less. The impact on continued operation and maintenance costs, because that's like a fixed cost every year, is more. You're spending a lot of money to keep reserves that is going to be utilized very little, no? Next. So here's the ultra-low sulfur diesel conversion, the 20 million I mentioned earlier. The breakdown, spare catalyst for 2 years, 1 year from emulsifier, and all the different fees, contingencies there, 20.6. The annual O&M increase, about 2.5 million, because again of the emulsifier and the spare oxidizers, oxidation catalysts that have to be replaced every 2 to 3 years. Next. So a comparison of the diesel plant's annual cost. 2018, MEC RFO, burning RFO like this today, it's got an 81% capacity factor. Whenever it could run as much as it could run, we run it, and therefore it produced about 626 million kilowatt hours per year. So based on that and the cost of the plan, you're talking about 5.3 cents a kilowatt hour when it produces 600 million. And then the fuel, of course, more efficient on the year. So the average cost in 2018, similar to 19 and 20, is about 15 cents a kilowatt hour. When you convert 8 and 9, you're going to see that, again, the fixed cost is going to go up from, this one is 15 million O&M, this one's 17 million, because the capacity fee goes away. But now you're only going to produce about excuse me, 103 million kilowatt hours per year. So then your average cost is 17 fixed costs and 13 fuel costs, 29.9 cents a kilowatt hour as an intermediate load. If you look at the Greco, again, we own it. There's no capacity fee. About 3.5 million O&M fee plus 2 million additional CIPs every year to start overhauling some of these units, 5 or 7 at a time per year. You're looking at 17 cents a kilowatt hour for them to produce 103 million kilowatt hours. You add the fuel here, it's a component, and therefore fuel component at 20.5 cents a kilowatt hour. Now you're looking at Agreco producing at 21 cents a kilowatt hour. As you can see, Agreco is cheaper now in producing this because the amount of energy to be produced is substantially less. No? Similar to that, this is the medium speed diesels that we have. It's about 17 or 18. So the future energy of MEC 8 and 9 could be served by Agreco and the Tenzo units. Next. So this is the scenario with MEC 8 and 9 under ultra low sulfur diesel. Here's at 29 cents. The average cost of energy in the system is 15.1. With Agreco, 14.7 cents. And going one more step further, we know that we're going to go to 50% renewables, we have to add at least 180 megawatts more of solar PV. So therefore, every solar PV system, utility scale you put in, now you're going to offset 8 and 9, or in this case, the Agreco production. So therefore, if you come in with 12 cents a kilowatt hour, you're offsetting the 21 cents a kilowatt hour. So therefore, when you're doing that, you're therefore reducing your cost even further by adding more solar PV, which every solar utility scale solar PV we add going forward is going to consist of a full load shifting. You catch all the energy in the daytime and start shifting and reducing the other energy. No? Next. So again, when you look at the emissions, this is, of course, we're going from today to trying to go to ultra low sulfur diesel. Here's the new emission numbers. Here's the Agreco numbers. There is an improvement in the potential emission by not having that capacity versus having Agreco. This slide has to be updated a little bit from the latest information I have, but it still makes the point that we're going to gain in air quality by not by having Agreco versus having 40 megawatts of Agreco versus 88 megawatts of MEC. Next. So what is the resulting cost savings by not implementing this and retaining Agreco? You look at first the capital investment, no? Here, 20.6 million. And again, this is money that we put aside, no? From the Cabbage 3 and 4 conversion to be able to do this. So it'd be available for other CIPs or in future or whatever, right? Then when you look at here's the MEC's non-fuel versus 5.5 for Greco, you're going to save 12 million. If you did run it up, and again, this is potential, if you did run it up to the 103 million, so MEC is more efficient than here, so you lose 2.7. If you don't run it, you gain the full 12. So therefore, that's about a net of about 9 million per year annually. You take it over 20 years, nominal in the dollars, $137 million, not to do this conversion. Yeah? Next. So again, our supply paradigm shift conclusion. Again, the Okudu provides reliability. PITI now, based on the original IRP, going to go to there. The changes, Agreco ownership provides us operational flexibility, and if we didn't buy Agreco, we'll still be paying another 12 million for the next 3 or 4 years because we still need the plan until the new power plant. But because we did, we're going to be saving substantial now. And again, so here's the retirement, the CAGX. We're going to save, and then the air emissions are going to go down. So PITI's future role as an intermediate energy plan is not economically feasible based on all of these conditions, based on the change of environments, based on the approval of the Ukudu, the change of law to head towards 100% renewables and moving forward. You don't want to just be putting money into a plan just because you're going to keep it from reserve when you know you're not going to need it because you're going to be generating it from other sources like renewables. Next. Here's what I mean. And again, this is the sequence, of our energy renewable from the first 2015 solar project to now having 24 megawatts of customer net metering, to 40 megawatt battery coming on the line, to 120 megawatts of contracted 8.5 cents per kilowatt energy that's already in the works and moving forward, to 198 megawatt power plant and the 40 megawatt that's under protest today that hopefully I believe will work out in our favor, and that's 11 cents a kilowatt hour for full load shifting energy, and phase 4 renewables. So here on the left side, as you can see, blue is Okudu. The yellow is the direct solar PV feeding into the system and being consumed. What color is this? Anybody?
Beige.
It's like, I'll call it beige. The beige is the solar PV. All the energy being caught by the phase 3 battery system. And then you release it at night to produce energy, to serve the energy for the peak. And today, and as programmed, MEC 8 and 9 is the reddish color. So that's what it would have been generated. So if we added a phase 4, part of phase 4 is 180 megawatts. If we added a component of it, which we know we're going to have to do anyway, which we don't have to wait until the full IRP is done, which we're trying to do by the end of the year, get ahead of the game, then everything above the light colors here, all become renewables. And then the only thing left is the Okudu. Now what happens when you're going to go 50%? So you add more renewables, and then this blue here now, you release it there, start becoming light. So 50% renewable is about here. Okay? So this is how it keeps converting and taking away. You're still going to need the conventional unit. The question is, do we really need a Greco? Well, the issue here is then what happens when the sun doesn't shine. and it rains. Typically what happens is that if this is your peak and it rains, then this curve now swings down to about 75-80% of what it is. So you still need that conventional energy to give you that energy during rainy days. And remember, every day of additional storage is 7.5 cents. So by having this at the cost we have now, the 5.5 cents per okudo, you're really only spending 5.5 cents for all the reserve instead of 7 cents for every day of additional storage. No? Next. So again, recommendation is that the CCU approve and GPA to petition for the retirement of PITI plan after the new plan is commissioned. Retain Agreco as an intermediate load plan. Secure about 60 megawatt of utility scale load shifting renewables. And then work with EPA to amend the consent decree requirement to convert ultra sulfur diesel to retirement of PD after the commissioning of the new plan. With the approvals, continue upgrading the plan based on this. Coming up back with the integrated resource plan, which looks towards 50% renewables. So we're trying to give a heads up to everybody. And again, part of this is because this is probably the best way to go for ourselves to the future of the island and still comply with air emissions improvement. I did not make a resolution yet, depending on how the commission feels, or at least provides an idea, and we can draft one for Tuesday. Yeah.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? Mr. Sanchez.
Actually, this is really a long vision we've had, beginning recognizing that we were going to retire Cabras 1 through 4. We wanted to move and bring in more renewables, but we need to keep the lights on and be reliable while we migrate. And it's actually, to me, quite satisfying to see that we are really on the brink of moving, making this paradigm shift, but protecting our ratepayers, to make sure that they still have reliable energy at a very good cost. And I know that battery project is going to get done, hopefully in our lifetime, but pretty soon, hopefully this calendar year. But I mean, these are all the pieces this is how you migrate to more renewables in a responsible, reliable, and an affordable way, moving the pieces that you started with and taking advantage of, at day one, we sure didn't like the idea of renting a Greco, but we needed to when the good Lord or other resources intervened and said Cabras 3 and 4 are now leaving early, right? And then a Greco has given us tremendous flexibility. The renewable migration continued. We now are getting some really good renewable pricing, and we're only going to get better pricing going over the next 10, 20 years. And yet, we've got the one big generator that will be available to us, and a couple of small ones, and 48 little ones that just give the flexibility to keep the lights on while you keep adding reliable and affordable renewables so that the whole system stays up whenever the people need it. And it's really good to see that the journey that we're taking, and that one little slide you had there, John, on I don't know what page number, but you showed the different years, 2015, 2020, all the way to 2024. We've really set the stage to allow us to. I've always used the phrase maximize renewables. I don't know if that's 100%, 95%, 80%. Technology and price will tell us what that is. After we've all stopped serving on this commission, whether it's 2045, 2040, or 2060, hopefully we will have set the table for how to think about migrating, right? And if technology and pricing allow us to do it sooner, we can do it sooner, and you just use Ukudu a lot less. But it's there, right? And none of us know, we haven't had a typhoon to go through which will eventually be 200 megs of renewables, public and private. We've never had a typhoon. We don't know if that's going to take out 10%, 20%, no percent. We don't know how long it would take to replace damaged capacity. But Ukudu just will be there to be the insurance policy for reliability and availability. And it's really quite satisfying to see kind of how this has all come together and how we've weathered some storms like losing Cabris 3 and 4. But we always knew in the back of our mind we wanted to retire it. The good Lord decided to retire it under a slightly different timeline. And yet having a Greco and seeing technology allow us to win, award more contracts at continuing falling prices for renewables, now with some battery for reliability and availability, it really is coming together quite nicely for a power system on an isolated grid, serving a community that they want that power on 25 hours a day, not 24 or 23. They want it on. And so I'm very happy to see this migration. I think all these are pieces of the puzzle that that management's requesting of us. If we approve it, we go to the PUC, we talk to EPA. This is right in alignment with the consent decree with EPA. It's further proof to them that we told you we're going to do this. We're doing it. We need to tweak the agreement a little bit, but the pieces are here, and let us implement it. And this will continue to reduce the cost of energy for our ratepayers over time. That's our job.
I think, John, everything Commissioner Sanchez said, but to me, the one surprise that we had when we finally opened the bid on Okadu, and they came in with 64 megawatts of small diesels to back themselves up, I said, oh my God, that just means their reliability is going to be really good. If something goes, they're backing themselves up. And that relieved us of having to back that up. And I think that's where 8 and 9 going, that huge cost going out. We're going to do a great job for our ratepayers. So I'm in full support of this. Yeah. Commissioner Sanchez.
I was going to ask you, just to the overall plan, being able to turn it on?
When your quarantine is lifted.
Technical assistance?
Yeah, because we're now in the commissioning, all the experts coming in to commission the batteries are from off, not all, but most of them are from off island. We have independent third party, looking at the commissioning. And so what happens is that we were heading into that in the March, April to be done, but then COVID-19 hit. So now we're just waiting for them because they can come in and spend 14 days at the hotel, and then not knowing all of that. So, but if all goes well, we anticipate maybe somewhere around the August, September time.
So we're still hoping that this calendar year, depending on the.
It'll take about 2 months, 1 month for the first unit and 1 month for Talapoco, 1 month for that.
So the facility is essentially done. It's just the commissioning to turn it on and plug it in and kick the tires and.
That's
Fine tuning.
Okay. Maybe we should rent a hotel, have management watch it, and put those guys in there. Nah, that's not gonna.
Yeah, well, we don't want to pay them for sitting for 14 days. That's the problem.
No. All good.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Okay. Any other questions, commissioners? Everybody's fine? Okay, John, you have one more, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and that's resolution
We approved this already.
We approved this one already.
2015, man.
Yeah, we did this. Yeah, we signed it.
We only added information, just for your information, Mr. Chair, very quickly. Again, this is our projection of what the revenue we were going to get and based on the downfall, the loss of energy. And then this is the actual. So we're basically right around there. So based on what we've given you earlier, we're still on track. And then, of course, we're cutting costs here and there, no? Next, John, I'm gonna just go through and help me when you. This is the billings and this is the collections. As you can see, we're still very close, although we're not at the the close to where we've always been. The amount of we have been collecting money even throughout this period. Again, here meaning it collected more than what we billed for the month. And again, if you take this back for the fiscal year or something, we basically have collected what we have programmed, here. Sometimes because they pay regular basis, sometimes if there's an issue with the billings, then they make it up the following. But they're usually you average it out over time, is still 100. Stay online also, right? Depending on next.
But you can see private and commercial picked up on PPPs and the businesses had some money to pay their
So
bills.
here's your, I'm just looking at 60 days and above, and I think I worked those numbers out somewhere else. But again, really it's about $5 million, of which are in the 60 and above. Now, which is not too bad, but part of that is Guam DOE. It's more, if you look here, more on the government side here. Well, they're paying 600,000 a month. I'm sorry, twice a month. But it's not clear to us whether that's to pay the arrears or just to pay the regular bill plus the arrear. So we have not agreed to the payment plan, and so we'll continue to move forward as we try to understand what are they trying to, But the arrear really they're about 2.8 million in arrears. So when you look at this total 5 million here, they're the bulk of it. So we told them we haven't agreed to the payment plan, and so right now we don't have much leverage until July 1st, So we'll move. We'll see what we can do about collecting. I have already texted the superintendent. They referred to the controller. Very close and it's So we'll see. We'll take it a step at a time, but. I wanted to show that really the bulk of this, the government and one in particular, even public works are paying they're almost current now. Okay, next.
John, just a minute. Commissioner Machako, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So John, JV, this was just going back to the resolution and also what you just mentioned when you said that you don't have any leverage until July 1st. So is it the intent of GPA via the resolution that if there is no payment plan established by a customer by July 1st, that you're going to try to collect in full?
We will do everything we can to collect, And I mean, we're not unreasonable, but when we know we're not being paid, so that's why we take it on a case-by-case basis, and we expect that we should get, show us being raised, but if you also notice the payment arrangement in the resolution identifies two specific groups. It's residential business. Because the expectation at least is that we've always been working with the government, but there's really no need for a one-year plan, unless we know otherwise, which we don't see today, because there are revenues coming in, no? And DOE in particular, so that's all. But
Yeah,
So-
but I know we passed the resolution, but after reading it again before I signed it, I don't know if it's clear on what happens to customers that do not establish a payment plan by July.
customers do not establish, then most likely the disconnection starts to occur. So we're encouraging all customers to talk to us. I think the team is also reaching out to customers, trying to get them to establish a payment plan by July 1st. As we can see, not we can see, as being seen, there's only a certain group that are not, and those are part of the difficult ones that are in need, and that's the ones we're trying to reach out also. And this is one group in particular, the last page of the presentation. This is the prepaid customers, and as seen, in April, May, keep on climbing. So now there's about 992, almost 1,000 on prepaid. That these are actually becoming inactive or whatever, and just using energy but not providing any additional payment. That's averaging about $300 some per customer. So these are the ones also that they've been text trying to work out. Because this is the one that immediately becomes boom right away in July. So we're trying to work with these customers ahead of time. But this is again 341 prepaid customers.
That's cumulative, or that's
Yeah,
by month?
I think this is cumulative. Yeah, as you can see, it's just growing, no? But it's really the amount of 340 versus the millions you've seen earlier, right? And so every customer really we're gonna have to work with. Business, there are some groups that are like have the cash flow to enable to. There's some that are requiring some assistance, but not significant, and then might be some that are just not going to come back. No? And we're going to have to see how we collect that, if at all possible.
Commissioner Sanchez.
And then, so with the prepaid, someone would come in and say, look, I'm behind $300, I guess, right? And they now need to know what their July prepaid would be. You would negotiate how to pay off that $300 over a period of time. That would become their new monthly prepaid, current plus arrears, right? You would adjust that, and that's what they would have to prepay every month. And every month they don't, that's when you turn them off.
So the way the prepaid works is that there's a prepaid loading. It's just like you get so for regular use, and then there's a debt recovery.
Right,
So
but
what
they're going to
happens
have to load that amount in. They have to load that amount
Right.
in.
So everything
first,
that
right?
they load up, say for example, they load $100, and our debt recovery plan or agreement is,
$50,
yeah.
6 months.
So or $30.
So they're going to have to
it's-
prepay $150.
So every time they pay $100, 30% or whatever, or 20% of that goes to debt recovery. Then the balance is what they use for their energy for the month. So
Yeah, because in effect, a prepayer has to even prepay their debt recovery. You're doing it the other slightly different, where you're crediting their debt recovery first, but that just means they're going to run out of power earlier in the month, and they're going to have to come in earlier to make up that difference. That because the first money, some of their prepay went to the old debt, right?
Yeah, that's correct, under debt recovery. And so about 75% of our prepaid customers are asking to take their debt, which normally they wouldn't carry, and convert it to debt recovery. So you're both correct. The prepaid customer will pay an increment. And so let's say they paid $10 today. So 30 to 50% of that $10 will go to their debt recovery, and the other 50% will go toward their energy that they're using today, and they still need to maintain a $15 credit in their account.
Which means
Right, for energy.
but when you take the amount that now went to their debt, the balance that remains, it could mean that in the fourth week of the month, they need to come in and
It
put
could.
more
It
money
does.
in,
Yeah,
right?
Ultimately, if
Depending
they're
on the
using the
usage.
same consumption, they'll need to pay more a month. And that's the same with a postpaid customer who enters into
It'll
a
work.
payment plan.
Anything
Okay,
else?
Mr. Chair, that's all I have. I just wanted to give you an idea, at least, that, I'm actually kind of glad there, people were able to pay their bills, except for those parts that really need, and we're trying to work that out with them, no? GM report, Mr. Chair, I can do it tonight and next week if you have any question, or if you have any questions on anything in particular, you can address it now, or you
Tuesday?
wanna.
Commissioner Sanchez?
And then we can review it, and I'm okay with it. I just had actually a quick question. I noticed the LEAC under recovery in April went up 600,000. That's where we're, and in February, we projected charge this rate. Any reason the under recovery, are we worried about the under recovery April as being a trend, or where we might have shot a little low even in February?
No, we knew that if they drop the rate down, the under recovery is gonna increase for the period between now and July 31st.
You're talking about the April rate, right? When we dropped it on
Yeah,
April 1st.
when the April rate was
Yeah,
up.
that already in the April under recovery? Oh, I see. Okay, got it. So we anticipate it, okay. Yeah, and we'll start to, we're not concerned that our plan to finally get to be starting the much less expensive fuel will recover that 600,000. The 600,000 isn't the beginning of a trend of under recovery. It just happened to be, as Commissioner Santiago said, we were finishing the last of the more expensive fuel, and the April 1 versus that, there's a small under recovery. We'll see that gain back in May, June, July. We'll see that back. Our bigger concern is August and forward, depending what oil feed does.
Where does the oil prices settle? Because again, it could go here, it could go there, so.
That's now the PUC's headache.
Yeah.
They're the ones
I
that have
think-
to decide what to do for the August 1 adjustment.
You bring up a good point, Commissioner Sanchez. For clarification, John, I want to make sure the commission understands this. We authorize you to submit a proposal to the PUC, and it set your number at 8.9 cents for the next 8 months. The PUC decided to set it at 8.6 for these 2 months, but you're not now trying to figure out another number. Your number's still good at 8.9, right? Because that was your number that you were figuring anyway. So there's no, we're not going to approve anything now. They're simply he's going to remind them that the number before them is 8.9.
Yeah, we'll provide them, in July, what they normally do is they request an update of all the numbers, the forward projections and everything, and they base their decisions on what is there. So we'll provide them that. Right now,
Update.
we have no reason,
Nothing to do.
They didn't like our
nothing to
number?
do, because things could change left and right, no? And we made our best projection based on what we believe, what is probable at that time. So
Okay.
we have no suggest changes.
Okay. If there's no further discussion.
Just finance, John, we're hanging tough. Highlights maybe? The highlight was provided last. For April?
I'll provide the highlights,
Okay.
you're already asking for we have a
Okay. Okay, and if you have any questions, of course, we have Tuesday night to fill in. If we're done, there's a motion to adjourn. So move second. Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed.
Thank you.
Motion.
Commissioners.
Adopted.
Good, great job.